Today I want to talk about something that I think is very important, and that is notes on directing. These are not necessarily my notes on directing. These are things that I keep in mind when I'm working. Things I think no director, seasoned or otherwise, should be on set without. So even though filmmaking is a team sport, ultimately it's the director who holds the vision together in his head. He's the creative lead of every department to some extent, right? So everything starts from the director and trickles down. What does that mean as a director? Basically, as a director, if everything goes well, you get to thank your team. It's a team sport. We did it together. I couldn't have done it without. But if everything goes sideways, and things often go sideways on a film set, basically means the director is going to take the blame. And I'm not just saying that because I've been the director who's had to take the blame. It's because ultimately, if something goes sideways, the blame is on you, right? You're the one steering the ship. You're the one making sure everything's in order. And yes, you know, there's a lot of stuff to remember. But at the end of the day, that's what you signed up for, right? And there's so much that you need to keep in your head. It's all encompassing. It takes over your life to some extent when you're directing a big project. So we're not doing it for the money. We're not doing it for the glory. We're doing it because we like doing it. And we understand the risks that come with it, right? So let's talk about getting performances out of non-actors, right? Non-actors are people who will work for the budget you've presented, your friends, or basically the people who are just starting out and still need a chance and you see some kind of potential in them. Non-actors are tricky. They're either the greatest thing to ever happen to a production, or they can be the end of one. So if you have a very, very talented, untrained actor who's not a professional, you can go in there and you can get incredible results from a non-actor because they don't have years of other directors or casting agents or just the industry as a whole like weighing down on them. They're lighter. They're more open to trying things, and that's fantastic sometimes. Sometimes though you need an actor to understand stuff on his own, and that can be troublesome, but again, don't shy away from non-actors. Go through the auditioning process, talk with them, make sure that you vet them well. A non-actor can be one of those things that'll just blow you away. It's happened to me many times. And that's what I want to leave you with. Don't shy away from working with non-professional actors or people who are just starting out. Sometimes it's the greatest thing ever. On the flip side of that coin, the other side, professional actors, seasoned pros, right? So if you're just starting out as a director, or your skill level is here and your experience level, is here, and the actor is all the way above frame here, it can be kind of intimidating sometimes, right? So how do you work with a seasoned pro? Something that I like to do with all actors, not just with professionals, but that works extremely well when dealing with someone whose experience level is way above my own, is not directing them too much. Now, I know that sounds weird and counterproductive, but I have and I'm not saying this is the only way to work, and I'm not saying it always works for me either. I just have a very laid back kind of way of directing. I tend to really trust the script and the storyboard in the sense that I want the actors to be able to almost infer from reading the sides or the notes or whatever it might be what they need to do. Like, I like to give them all the information they need, and then from there we decide, do they need more notes? Like, I won't step in unless they've done something that I really don't like, or if they ask me to, right? I'll give them a few takes, let them do basically whatever comes to mind and see how it fits in. And like I said, if it's not working, we'll have a discussion. It's always a discussion. I don't like to give them commands. I like to just let them find it on their own. You know what I mean? Like, I've done everything I need to do as a director by giving them the scene, giving them the tone, giving them the mood, giving them the script. They have everything they need in front of them. I explain to them, we always run through blocking. It's very important to always run through your blocking with them and then kind of see where they go with it, because a lot of the fun of making a film is once it leaves your hands as a writer, creator, director, whatever that might be, and it goes to the actors, that's when the creative process really starts to get interesting, because now you're having other people take what you've been working with for so long and around with, for lack of a better word, and now their input goes into that and it creates something new. And sometimes it's terrible, but sometimes that little moment between letting it go and it coming into contact with someone else and their opinions, that's what really makes it special, right? And that kind of falls into this next thing I want to talk about, which is something Hitchcock always spoke about, which is directing the audience. Because the audience, when you set up a scene, when you set up a set piece, or even like a dialogue heavy scene, you need to kind of know where the audience is going to go. You can't actually know what every single human being in that, movie theater or library or wherever you're showing this thing is, or at home on their computer. You can't know what everyone's gonna do, but you got a pretty good idea of what most people will do given certain events unfolding on screen, right? Especially if you've given them some backstory or you've given them context or information. And by controlling the context and the information leading up to specific moments, you can kind of control how they're gonna respond and how they're gonna react. Basically, you're directing them. As you're putting that out there, they're taking it with their experiences and their input, kind of like you were doing with the actors, the seasoned actors, and letting them take a spin on it. And you, by not filling in too much and leaving just enough gaps for them to fill with their own experiences, you can direct the audience the same way you would direct talent. And that's kind of the really fun part. Like, I remember when I was shooting a short film that I had sent to one of these 24-hour film races a few years back. There's a scene, spoiler, by the way, I don't know if any of you care to even watch this thing. It's called #Sudocracy. At the end of the film, a victimized protagonist, takes up arms, let's call it that. And, well, you know what, let me just roll it. And I know exactly what you're all going to do, so I'm going to do it. You see what like, come on. The entire theater just went, oh my God! And like, I knew the demographic of the theater. I knew who was going to be there. I knew what kind of competition it was. Watching the audience, like, I remember getting up and going to the side with my production partner at that time, Peter. We went over to the side of the theater and we just waited for people to respond. And it was just like, it was like a giant high five filled with hugs. It was just the greatest feeling ever. And I've had this happen a few times where I knew exactly, but I've had the opposite happen too, where I had written in like a joke or something, and I was just like, here it goes, and crickets, nothing, cicadas, just tumbleweeds and nothing. And that hurts just as bad as the other one felt good, right? So yeah, take that with a grain of salt. Again, if that's the kind of thing that's gonna mess you up and you won't be able to work anymore, you may be in the wrong field, and maybe, this isn't for you, because people are going to criticize your work and it's going to hurt, and you got to move past it. It's part of the growing process. Post-production is the last step of making a film, basically. That's what's called post-production. It's after. This is another part of the moment where, as a director, you can get too hands-on. If you're not the editor. If you're the editor, then you're the director and the editor. There's no way of avoiding this, unless you can get someone else to kind of give you input. But it's important to make sure that whoever's doing the editing is, one, sticking to the story, sticking to your vision, but you need to be open to them making changes, because as they're going through the footage and all the notes you've given them and everything, they're going to make changes. Now, sometimes you might not like those changes, and that's okay. But don't ever get rid of changes made by an editor just because they weren't what you asked for. Give it a chance, because again, you're letting it go. It's this thing you've made. Put it out there, and now someone else is putting their experience and their context and their input into it, and it's changing again and it's growing. And a lot of times that's what makes a film incredible, right? It's just so many different experiences going into creating this new experience for an audience. A good director is open to all suggestions, but you always know that you need to stay true to your vision, to the vision at hand. And I don't know, I feel like, those are the kind of things that I can give you. Like I said, this wasn't like a hardcore list of things that you need to know. These are my notes on directing. I watch a lot of these videos on YouTube about,
5 things you need to know, and 7 things you must do, and 5 pieces of kit you have to have.
There's nothing that you need to or have to or must have, or everything is subjective and up to you, really. What works for some may not work for others. So that's why I like to give these lists out a bit more casually. They're not
5 things you need to have.
They're 5 things that I think are important, and you can do with them as you will. On that note, my name is Phil. I just filmed this. I hope you liked it. My 5 notes on directing. If you did, before you like and subscribe, or after liking and subscribing, go back and watch some of the older videos. They're not that old. They're just previous, and then watch this one again if you feel like it. If not, don't. Like and subscribe, because my channel needs to grow and you need to know where I am so you can watch my stuff, and I'll see you in the next video, assuming I remember to make one.